as the manga started to finally adapt the very long-awaited and anticipated battle between Saitama and Garou. Many readers and longtime fans of the series like myself were eagerly waiting to see how this ultimate clash between two beings with unparalleled willpower and strength would turn out. And in just 2 chapters, not only did we witness a lot of new characters and plotlines start to develop, but the brawl that we have waited years for had just come to an abrupt, confusing, and interesting end. This double spread panel alone at the time started many conversations and controversy in the community that would bring many mixed reactions upon the reveal that the big climactic fight that we had been waiting years for had been changed from the webcomics continuity by quite a bit, and would have a lot of us on the edge of our seats speculating the outcome that would come from a conversation like this, only to be completely scrapped and revised into the chapter that we know presently. In today's video, I will go over the burning questions I have about the ever so mysterious removal and change of this chapter, that being chapter 164. And of course, before the video does begin, there will be spoilers for the entirety of the One Punch Man story across all of its media, so that means the webcomic, the manga, and even the anime. So, you have been warned. So, let's start at the beginning of chapter 164. In the deleted chapter, we start off exactly how we did in the revised version, where we see Lightning Max trying to lead a group of familiar heroes in order to get down to shore and find Tedio, where they are suddenly frightened at what seemed to be a drowned dead body floating, but it was actually the S-class hero Pig God, who is alive and just keeping himself afloat. But this is where we then cut back to the fight between Saitama and Garou, where Garou is seen frustrated at the fact that he cannot take down our bald hero. In the revised official chapter, we get some extra inner monologue of Garou expressing his disappointment in himself about how everything he's done up until this point as a monster was easily brushed off. All of this while Saitama is countering his attacks with just one hand. In the deleted version, we didn't get this inner monologue, but instead we got Garou contemplating on what type of way he should bring down Saitama. And in both versions, Garou decides to use a more creative approach by propelling himself with a boost fueled by his power, or what I'm assuming is those flames behind on his back. But either way, he does this with the palm of his hands on Saitama, diving straight into a mountain. When Garou speared Saitama into this mountain using his new creative attack known as the Extreme Fajin, it causes gigantic seismic waves that reach down on the other side of the earth. We then cut to a panel of a strange background labeled to be another dimension with speech bubbles of statements coming from the silhouettes of the Blastice League. But this is where they state that the Earth's magnetic and gravitational fields are going crazy, and that it's creating a hole in the dimensional seal. This seal that they are referring to is still sort of a mystery, but from what we know, this seal is supposed to be holding back the mysterious divine-like being known as God, and of course we can assume that God is sealed on the moon just from the panels and the artwork shown in the manga. But anyways, just after that, we then get another panel of a background with speed lines and of course text bubbles of Blast commanding the Blastice League, simply saying that that bastard is going to break through. Of course, bastard being God, and of course this was followed up by them saying that they have to hurry and repair the hole in this seal. And although the same thing was said in the deleted version, it also added a ton of new lines and panels where it revealed a lot of the character designs of the Blastice League, and of course new lines that were from Blast when he was taking a look at the dimension wherever the One Punch Man story takes place, and just seeing the surprised expression of Blast looking at the earth bulging. Of course, we also see his comrades speculating as to what could be causing such force to make a mess of the natural world that they live in. Now, I did make a whole separate video discussing and theorizing about the Blastice League, and of course, so I won't go too in depth here. Just know that the reveal of these guys were super important and caused a lot of conversations to spark, and of course, because of the revelation of about these mysterious intergalactic or interdimensional beings that work with Blast to help him in his battle with God. And of course, because of this, the whole God plotline was strengthened as well, because as you may or may not know, the whole manga continuity is really trying to push this God agenda onto the story. And of course, as a lot of theories and of course a lot of speculation says, that God is the final boss of the One Punch Man series. So if you're really interested in that, go check out my other video where I go more in depth. But I think the most likely reason they removed the reveal of these characters is just simply to keep them more mysterious, and of course to build up some kind of hype, you know, maybe reveal them later down the road in the manga whenever the whole God plotline really starts to emerge and we actually start to see God more involved in the story. But just after this whole ordeal about the Blastice League trying to repair the seal in both versions, we come back to the fight in which we see Saitama completely unaffected by the extreme Fajin attack, where he proceeds to knock down Garou with his consecutive normal punches. And I think this is where we really just start to see major differences between both versions of this chapter. In the deleted version, just after Garou is knocked down, we see him having a depressing inner monologue moment where he is defeated and of course very doubtful about achieving his desire to become absolute evil, going as far as to think that everything he's worked for has led to this moment of him being killed by Saitama's fist. This page alone, of course, stirred up a lot of controversy in the community, and of course I remember myself reading about how people thought that this was really out of touch for Garou's character. Garou being the edgy badass we know that seemed to stop at nothing to become what he desired to become and wanted, continuously evolving and surpassing his previous self, only for him to be stopped due to Saitama and a deep feeling that he had about his plan not working out in the end. But more on this later. We then see Saitama stop Garou's last-ditch effort to get the capability to finish him off, even begging Saitama to kill him. But in response to this, Saitama realizes that Garou might have some kind of hero issues or have some kind of misunderstanding of heroes. He then offers him to have a chat in a random destroyed house or shack in the background, where we then get this kind of funny double spread panel of Saitama and Garou sitting down with a table in front of them as they are illuminated by the moon in the far distance. Of course, this right here is what I mainly want to talk about. This cliffhanger of a panel had the community in a chokehold. I still remember watching other One Punch tubers reacting and reviewing this chapter when it came out, and of course there was a lot of mixed reactions to this. When it came to this final panel, some part of the community was outraged and annoyed at the fact that we didn't get to see the fight unfold like we did in the webcomic, and of course a lot of people were anticipating the debut of Saitama's serious moves that he used against Garou, and of course Saitama's infamous speech about Garou's compromise at the end of their fight in the webcomic. But on the other side of the spectrum, we had people that were more neutral about this panel, that simply just wanted to wait it out and see what would happen. Me personally, I was actually one of those people that was neutral about it. I was really just hyped and I was just a very patient person. I was just waiting to see what would come out of this conversation that Saitama and Garou were gonna have, of course. And I was kind of hoping on the inside that we would at least get to see them battle it out just a little bit more, so we could see the action that we saw in the webcomic. One of the more popular theories as to what could have happened if Saitama and Garou would to have this conversation, or if this panel was continued and wasn't revised, then we would get a conversation similar to that of the speech at the tail end of their fight in the webcomic that would eventually spark some kind of debate between him and Garou. And you know, knowing that Garou at this point is a very, very defeated and doubtful person and might even just be angered about this debate that they get into, only for them to fight again. And from there, it would lead to Garou getting influenced by God, and of course, it would follow the same plot that we know today, where Garou gets influenced, he gets that vision of Bang reaching out with his hand, and of course, Garou decides to either fully embrace God's influence, where he actually takes his hand instead of slapping it away, because knowing at the time that he was very disappointed in the fact that he wasn't able to become absolute evil, then he might have just fully accepted God's power there. Or maybe in the middle of their conversation, as Garou is slowly losing his cool, it easily could have transitioned into a God appearance, where we get an actual appearance from God, where he kind of manifests himself in front of everyone, and maybe we get some kind of battle between Garou and Saitama, between God, which would have been really crazy. Or maybe we would have gotten an actual appearance of the Blastice League coming down to the dimension that wherever the One Punch Man story takes place, whatever dimension that may be. Of course, they might have actually come down, and we might have seen an all-out battle between the Blastice League, Saitama, and Garou against God. That would have been crazy, but that probably would have been too much. As you may or may not know, One and Murata did want this whole big climactic battle between Garou and Saitama to surpass the battle between Boros and Saitama, because we all know how big and viral and how huge that battle was for the One Punch Man series, and of course they had to top that. So that theory right there isn't too completely out the window, but like I've said before, they probably scrapped that because that would have been way too much to put into the story. But either way, many things could have gone down, and it's all really down to your own interpretation. But there were some other people saying that the reason for this chapter being scrapped in the first place was due to it being a very confusing and awkward type of ending or cliffhanger. So Murata simply revised it, or maybe Murata didn't know how to transition this panel into the big fight that we know and that we all wanted, right? Maybe both One and Murata really did want to adapt that last speech or conversation that Saitama had with Garou at the end of that webcomic, right? But it didn't turn out as well as they hoped it would. Maybe somewhere out there is like a whole different type of fight that continued and we just don't know about it. Some have said maybe they were under pressure by not just the fans, who were at the time not exactly too happy with the direction of Garou's character arc, but maybe by Shonen Jump themselves, because we do know that they tend to rush and have mangakas meet certain deadlines to get these chapters out. But yeah, that's kind of difficult to say. I feel like that's kind of a reach, because I don't think Murata has deadlines or likes to be rushed. I think with his schedule, he kind of just puts out chapters whenever he wants to. But this being the climax or the height of the whole Garou saga, maybe they were pushing him, and he just decided to scrap this whole idea of having a conversation and just get straight into God coming in and influencing Garou. Some part of the community actually said that they would have preferred this version over the revised version because of the sudden hilarious twist and of course change of pace. But not just that, a lot of people weren't exactly satisfied with the official revised ending. With the whole time traveling plot and all, not many people were happy about that. Not many people really wanted the zero punch ending, because a lot of people did prefer that ending speech that Saitama gave to Garou, where it really affected Garou on the inside and of course really changed his outlook about heroes and what he's really doing, and about how Garou has compromised his whole hero hunting, whole absolute evil thing. And as you may know, revisions aren't something new in One Punch Man. We have seen this happen before. For example, in the chapters that covered the fight between Child Emperor and Phoenix Man, Murata made the monster Phoenix Man quite the overpowered character, too powerful for an opponent like Child Emperor to handle. And of course Murata did realize this and hit Phoenix Man with a retcon and a nerf, essentially, where he didn't want Phoenix Man to become a god level threat. In conclusion, I think it would have been cool to see where this deleted version would have led to, but there's always that very slim chance of hope, because the manga volume covering the Garou and Saitama fight still hasn't been published as of today. So there is this really slight chance that they may pick up this plot and expand on it, or maybe Murata would leave some kind of notes at the very end of the volume explaining where or how and why this was revised. But that's a very the chances of this are very slim. Or we could wait for a chance to personally ask Murata or One themselves on a live stream, or if they ever have some kind of open questions and answers at an event, so we could, ask them where this chapter would have led and what was the point of this whole cliffhanger, just to get some kind of clarity on this mysterious direction they were heading towards. But until then, we don't really truly know the whole point of this cliffhanger. But that's why I made this video. I wanted it to bring it up. I wanted some more conversations to spark up about it. I want to hear your theories, of course, down in the comments below. And I want to know if you liked where this deleted chapter was heading towards. I'm Emirpunch, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. See ya.